Well, hello and welcome. Today, I want to talk with you about how to manage difficult emotions in chaotic times. I had a request from a few of my friends and some of my clients around creating some content to help them cope with what's going on in the world right now and all of the kind of chaotic feelings that people are having with it. I am aware that a lot of people, myself included, are struggling right now to kind of process what is going on in the world. I, however, am really fortunate because I've done a huge amount of training and work on this in the past, and I have some really cool tools to share with you on how to cope with, those difficult emotions during these times. And today I am going to share a tool that when I was working during COVID, I was working for Tony Robbins at the time. I had over 65 clients. So I shared this strategy I'm about to share with you with all of my clients back then, because let's face it, back then everybody was struggling. But I kind of feel, a bit of a sense of a similar kind of vibe emerging right now. So I'd love to share this with you. In times of challenge, of chaos, of uncertainty, it is normal to feel feelings of sadness and fear and anger. However, here's the thing I've really learned over the years: we owe it to ourselves to pay attention to how much we're suffering and to take action on that. Because when we are in a suffering state, we cannot show up for the people who need us and we cannot live our best life. So my wish for you by the end of this session is to have one tool that will help you manage those difficult emotions you're experiencing right now. So what I'm going to share with you today is an adaptation of Stephen Covey's Circles of Influence. You may have heard of Stephen Covey. He wrote the very famous book, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, in 1989. And with this concept, he explains that there are two circles. There is a circle of concern. This encompasses the things that you are concerned about, like global issues and your opinions of kind of what's going on in the world. So world politics falls into this, and, external circumstances. And then there is the second circle, which is of influence, things that directly impact you and that your actions, attitudes, choices, and responses can affect how you respond. And I did really like this concept, but felt that it didn't go far enough. And so I developed this concept called the Continuum of Control. The idea being, it's not about being in defined circles, but it's more of a continuum of, the level of control you have. So as you'll see in the continuum of control, there are 4 zones. The first zone is zero control. This is things like global politics, global issues, external events where your behaviors, your actions, your thoughts have very little control over the outcome of that situation. Next, we have minimal control. This is things like local politics, the environment, and very interestingly, other adults. And if you have children, teenagers, especially, as they're getting older, other people, other adults fall into the zone of minimal control. Next, we have direct control. This is things where your influence can have a big effect, but it's not complete because there are variables outside of your control. For example, career, health, young children. You can do everything right, and there might still be factors outside of your control that may sabotage you. So, but you still have a fair amount of control. And last but certainly not least is significant control. And the only thing that falls into significant control, into that zone, is you. your thoughts, your reactions, your behaviors. And the good news is you can learn to have more control by doing personal development and, maybe considering doing some therapy if you're in a really dark place. So let's talk quickly about those zones 1 and 2. So um, zero control, we have global events which are beyond your reach. We also have natural disasters. We've had a lot of those going on recently. Um, and we have international politics. And then we have minimal control. And this is things like local politics, the environment. And here we can have a small individual impact. The example I often use here is the environment. I am really concerned about plastics in the sea. I am a nature photographer. I love the natural world. I love animals, and it breaks my heart to think our seas are polluted with plastics and other kind of toxic substances. And so my husband and I often we kayak out to this little island that seems to kind of collect a lot of trash. And when we go there, we pick up trash. Pardon the pun. It is a small drop in the ocean when it comes to plastic pollution, but it makes us feel like we are doing something that is useful, and we always kind of come back feeling good about ourselves and feeling like, if we saved one turtle or one seabird from dying from having, a piece of plastic wrapped around its neck, then it was worth it. And so minimal control, we also have, this is things that where there are community trends and other people's behavior, like I mentioned. Other adults fall into minimal control. Yes, you can influence other adults, but let's face it, they have a mind of their own and they will do what they will. And you can't completely affect the behavior of another adult. So when we spend time in zones 1 and 2, which is completely normal that we do. But when we spend too much time there, we may end up feeling sad and helpless or angry and frustrated when we focus too much time here. So say you were to spend the whole day reading all of the negative news, you would likely feel sad and helpless and angry and frustrated, helpless and hopeless as well. And sometimes people end up in what's called a crazy eight. A crazy eight is when you cycle from sadness, helpless, hopeless to angry and frustrated. And the problem with anger and frustration, they're high energy emotional states that we cannot sustain for long periods of time. We just burn ourselves out. And so we go to angry and frustrated. When we've burnt ourselves out, we go to sad, helpless, and hopeless. Hope that makes sense. So zones 3 and 4, first we have direct control. This is things like career growth. So you could decide, I'm going to take a course, I'm going to develop some new skills. I'm going to apply for a promotion. So there's a huge amount that you can do to improve your career chances. Physical health also falls into this. As you may know, I used to be a physician, and, I saw a lot of people who had health problems, and you kind of looked at their history and you're like, yeah, well, they had all these bad habits that led to the health problems. But I also saw a huge amount of people who seemed to do everything right, who just got unlucky because, our body is a natural being, and the laws of nature are not predictable. And so, sometimes people who live really healthy lives can get a health problem, and it really wasn't their fault. It was just the randomness of nature. And we also have here, parenting a child. If you find techniques that work for your child and you're a consistent parent, then you can have much more control over your child, their behavior, how they grow up. And so this can make you feel empowered. And then last but not least, like I mentioned, we have significant control. This is your thoughts. It's what goes on between your ears in your amazing brain. And as you also may know, I'm fascinated with the brain. I'm a real neuroscience nerd. And our brain is amazing, but it has several flaws. And one of those flaws is that it creates many thoughts from our subconscious mind that are not true and or that are harmful to us. And you can learn to train your thought patterns to take command of your mind as if it were a puppy in training. And you can learn to direct your thoughts and reduce the amount of time you spend in negative thought patterns. You can never get rid of it completely because negative thoughts and negative emotions are really important for your survival. So we don't want to get rid of them completely. We just want to make them manageable and also, on a level that is appropriate to what's really going on. We can also learn to regulate our emotions. We can learn things like mindfulness practice. We can learn stress management techniques. I have a whole course on that. And so there's a lot that we can do to change this. And then, of course, we can spot patterns of behavior that are not serving us and we can change them. So, what can you do if you are spending too much time in the zone of zero control? So, recognize that global issues are not within your reach. People, when I talk about this, people often say, but I need to be informed. I completely agree with you. You need to know what is going on in the world, but you don't need to spend 8 hours a day watching negative news. That is only going to cause you to suffer, and it isn't actually going to impact the negative news that's going on. So, global events and others' choices cannot be controlled by you. And I know it's hard, but you have to accept that. Limit your media exposure, set boundaries. It could be, I'll watch the news for 5 minutes a day. If you need more time, then choose more time, but set boundaries around it because this constant exposure is just a drip, drip, drip of stress, and it's not good for you. It can be really helpful. Say I'm gonna watch 5 minutes of the news every day just to keep informed. If it's really bothering you and affecting you, you might want to do some journaling afterwards so that you can kind of process what you have consumed. And then redirect your focus. Shift your attention to focus where you do have influence. This will reduce your feelings of sadness, helplessness, hopelessness, anger, and frustration. Next, what if you're spending a lot of time in minimal control? So you can do things like I mentioned. You can become involved in the community. You can participate in initiatives or volunteer. Small actions can create meaningful change in the community. With my example, if you imagine if everybody who ever went to the beach filled a whole trash bag full of plastic rubbish, it would make a difference. I mean, it wouldn't get rid of the plastic in the deep oceans, but over time it would make a difference. You can get involved in collective action. Join forces with like-minded people. Together, our voices are stronger and more impactful. And practice acceptance. This is especially with other people. Remember, they are not you. They have their own mind. And embrace other people's differences. Acceptance frees your mind from unnecessary frustration. What if you're spending a lot of time in zone 3, direct control? Excellent. Keep doing more of this. But you can harness this even more by setting achievable goals, break down aspirations into small steps. Each step helps build your confidence and momentum. It's really useful if you're feeling kind of out of control. Seek support from mentors, from coaches, from friends like me, people who care about you and who can help you kind of reframe what is going on. People, people who are insightful, who are on your side, can help illuminate new paths forward for you. Celebrate progress. It's really important. I think, often in our busy world, we fail to celebrate the small things. The research on massive goal achievement shows that it produces only very short-term improvement in well-being, with often a decrease and then a return back to normal. And what creates lasting well-being is celebrating the small achievements that you make in your life. This recognition, this, stopping and noticing, smelling the roses, tells your brain This is a good thing to be doing. Do more of that. And this is how we grow and develop, do more of the good things. Zone 4, significant control. So what can we do here? We're effectively talking about learning to harness our mind. Mindfulness practice is one of the most powerful things that you can do. You can learn to observe your thoughts without judgment. Awareness creates a space between feelings and reactions. It's really good for physical health, emotional health, for productivity, for relationships, you name it. If you can find a mindfulness practice for you, and I believe there is a mindfulness practice for everyone, it is one of the most powerful. I call it a multi-tool. It is one of the most powerful tools that you can have in your toolkit. Next, challenge negative thoughts. Your brain is trying to protect you, and so it often throws up unhelpful thoughts and beliefs. And so the cool thing is we can change that. We can do activities that help us, question those negative thoughts and then shift from them. Next, develop healthy habits. Nurture your mind through regular practice. Small routines yield powerful long-term results. Next, seek growth opportunities. Embrace personal development practices. Get a coach if you can afford one. Journal. See a therapist if you are. And I believe, coaching and therapy run alongside each other. And, I think coaching is really appropriate if a person is kind of in a pre-clinical phase of, not feeling good. But once you get to the clinical phase, you may need to, get a therapist or see a psychiatrist. So I think there's a place for both disciplines to run alongside each other. So how do we move through the continuum? First of all, is awareness. Where are you? Where are you spending your time? Determine where a concern belongs. This clarity will help you channel your emotional energy. Next, if you discover that you're in zones 1 or 2, ask yourself, do I want to be there? And if the answer is no, this is causing me unnecessary suffering, shift your focus. Move your attention from the uncontrollable areas to the controllable areas. This will help reduce your suffering, and you can do it. You have to believe me. Start doing it. You will get better and better at it. And thirdly, take empowered action. Act within your sphere of influence. Every meaningful step builds towards emotional resilience. I'm trained as an emotional resilience coach. The really cool thing is that mental or emotional resilience is a learned dynamic skill. You weren't born with it, but you can learn it and you can become better at it at any age, which I think is really cool. Remember, the goal isn't to control everything. It's to choose wisely where you invest your precious energy. So that is it from me. I hope this training was really useful. Please like, share, and follow for more. I am on a mission to improve the lives of 1 million people through access to health and personal development information. And I would love you to share this message. There are a lot of people suffering out there needlessly right now. And with tools like this, we can help everybody. One of my favorite quotes is "A rising tide lifts all boats." So be part of that tide that raises yourself and other people. Bye for now. Hope to see you next time.